You are listening to Beyond the Verse, a StarCitizen podcast. A show dedicated to Cloud Imperium games, StarCitizen, and Squadron 42. Whether you fight, explore, unite, and/or trade, we bring you news, updates, interviews, reviews, and analysis. So sit back, relax, grab yourself a pour of Radagast, and join us as we go Beyond the Verse.
Launch sequence activated.
Hello, friends, and welcome to Beyond the Verse, StarCitizen podcast. I'm your host, Sulyce, and this is episode 120. We crowned the Ship Showdown 2955 champion. We're going to review the latest Alpha 3.0 Hotfix patch notes and the Evocati 431 PTU patch notes that we can discuss because it's still on NDA. And we're going to dive into the August monthly report for the latest developer insights. We're also going to cover the Squadron 42 Q3 newsletter, what it was and what it wasn't, the September subscriber promotions. Of course, this week in StarCitizen, kind of the lowlights, the highlights, things from Org Night. And we're going to end with the August Jump Point issue summation or summary. And of course, your voice going through the polls and the comments section to make sure that we have that dialogue wrapping up the show. So this is going to be a good episode. A lot of information, a lot of informing, as opposed to kind of surmising and having general conversation. So I'm actually really excited to get into this. A lot to cover. The StarCitizen monthly report actually has good, tangible information in it, like new ships, updates on ships, the tier 1 item recovery, which has a lot of the community upset as well. So there is, again, a lot to get into. So I hope this finds you well in whatever capacity you are listening or watching the show. All right, outside of work. It's been crazy at work. So my wife was out of town Wednesday and Thursday, and I only say this because she got in like this morning, like Friday morning around 1 a.m. So yours truly is friggin' tired. So this might be a half day. I might be taking PTO and taking a little nappy nap that only 40-year-olds and more can understand. Actually, that's not true. I was taking naps when I was like mid-30s. I'm not ashamed. I'm not ashamed at all. Inside the game, actually, let's stay outside of the game. Just real quick. Nothing to do with StarCitizen. But for the first time in 10 years, at least 5, probably 10 years, I did invest in the latest Madden NFL game. So just heads up there. It's probably the best one, at least the reviews that I'm looking at. It's one of the best ones in the last decade. And I got into it. I've played 2 games and it's legit. So if you are a listener, viewer, whatever, and football is your thing and you've maybe taken a hiatus from Madden, get into it. Add me as a friend on Steam and maybe we can get into a game or 2 together. So, all right, let's get into StarCitizen. So, fun stories. The unfortunate story is I had scheduled with Sole Provision a Wednesday night conclusion of the Onyx facilities. So I was struggling. I was really having a hard time with wrapping up that last episode, the last mission, the phase 2 mission 4, where you have to go into that massive area. I don't want to ruin anything for anybody, but there's a 0G area that you have to take a shard to, plug the shard in, download or upload. I think it's uploading, whatever you need to, all the while being shot at by very, very difficult and infinite spawning of NPCs. Okay, so that was supposed to happen Wednesday night, but work got crazy and there was no way I was going to be able to uphold that commitment. So it's funny, it's like Wednesday in between meetings, I jumped in and I actually soloed the mission eventually. So funny story with this. So I make it all the way to the 0G area. And if you've done this before, it is nerve-wracking because like really the only way to get the shard into the let's say the input area, you've got to unequip your weapon system, and you have to put the shard into your hands and then EVA over to the input. You put the input in. Again, you can't really defend yourself in this moment. So I had been in the process, I was in the middle of EVAing, in the process of plugging in that server blade when I was, defeated. All right. So that sucks because it was in my hand. It was in the process of like delivering it. So when I died, that thing was kind of gone. It was in the abyss. It was floating around in 0G, and y'all know how StarCitizen works. Well, it did. It ended up taking me like 10 minutes to get my body back, right? To get back into the game, go from Seraphim Station back to the Onyx facility, first off, surviving everything again, taking my time to clear out all the major elite NPCs just to find my body. And of course, the shard wasn't on my body. So I'm like in the middle of a meeting, doing good as always, because I'm awesome at what I do, work-wise. And I was just floating around the 0G, defending myself, and finally running into the shard. So I found it. I found it floating in the abyss. So I was able to get it, able to turn it in, or able to upload into the input, and completed the mission. So pat on my back, a celebration for me. But hopefully you have found equal or better success at the Onyx facilities. Again, it was a great conclusion to the experience. I don't do the Wicklow turn-ins. I know I'm a completionist. I wish I could, but I'm not going to put myself through that misery of getting all these items and turning them in, just for Wicklow to, not do its thing, or really to do its thing and screw everybody over. So the items that I got at the end, that's not why I was hellbent on getting this completed. I'm a completionist, so I wanted to make sure I had the research wing and the engineering wing done before the 431 science wing releases. And so mission success. Wednesday night, of course, did not happen. That's fine. And then last night, Soul Provision and this is not a podcast to recruit you into Soul Provision. Never has been, never will be. It's available if you want to be part of our family. But last night we did some worm wiggling is what we're calling it. But we went into Stormbreaker again, got some eggs, or some teeth and some pearls, and then did a roll for the 20 plus individuals that were in our Discord. We rolled it, and one of our members, of course, won the items to turn in and get themselves an Icti from Wicklow. So those are some of the things that we do in the org. And honestly, it was a good night. It was a good night. For the most part, problem-free. There were some interesting things. Like we were on the Asgard with the Icti army. I'll get into that in a second. And like half the ship on my screen, half the ship just didn't exist. It was just gone. Now it was physically there. Like if you got close to the abyss, the ship would render and you would be able to see the rest of the Asgard. But there was a lot of times where I'm sitting there and just watching us quantum travel and go through Pyro, with myself being kind of frightened. I didn't want to move. I didn't want to glitch through the ship. So there's some interesting issues there rendering on the client side. But overall, it was really good. Look, shout out to Groza. I just want to take a second. Shout out to Groza, his Queen's Guard, his little posse he fights with. And they're constantly doing the Stormbreaker throughout the week. And they've gotten it down to a very artful execution. So he has what's called the Icti army. So he fills up an Asgard with like 6 Ictis. I was part of the Icti army last night. And so he gets to a point where he hovers the Asgard, and this is several clicks in the atmosphere, and we end up doing an airborne drop, like a halo drop into the worm. So we have another ground element that goes through the first phase and just knocks everything out, makes sure that the egg is present, starts executing the worm or the egg, and when that happens, we airborne drop, and it's a really phenomenal experience. We actually landed right on the path that leads to the tower and the big ass worm. So I mean, again, down to an art. So shout out to Groza. That's the kind of thing that we're looking for in Soul Provision, is getting this down to an experience that really no other org can provide for you. Again, not a recruitment podcast, but we are here. And we're an amazing family, so check us out. All right, let's get into this week in StarCitizen. Let me share my screen for those of you on video. Strap in, pilots, because Ship Showdown 2955 has reached its final face-off break. We know at this point the Polaris has won. We're going to get into kind of thoughts, feelings, emotions here in a couple of seconds. But by the time you're listening to this podcast, we know that the RSI Polaris defeated the Anvil Asgard. All right, back to the article. Legendary machines have gone head-to-head, and now it's up to you to decide this year's champion. Today's finale is one where steel and strategy collide. The RSI Polaris, the capital commander, takes on the Anvil Asgard, the armored advocate of the front line. Besides glory, a special champion's prize awaits the victor, along with exclusive manufacturer-themed rewards for the Final Four to be delivered at this year's Intergalactic Aerospace Expo, which is IAE, for those of you who don't know. Plus, there's still time to take the Elite 8 out for a spin in the ongoing Free Fly event. Speaking of events, CitizenCon Direct 2955 is fast approaching. Y'all should come to the Austin one. I get to facilitate it with the Astropub. It's going to be a lot of fun. Stay tuned for more information. This year's event is a special digital showcase, and we're sending out key CIG team members to select watch parties, Austin, Texas being one of them. We can't wait to connect with you in person, and don't miss your chance to be part of this year's show. Submit your video by September 30th to our currently ongoing contest for a shot to be featured on the live stream and win a hot new ship. Lastly, a huge thank you to everyone who came out to the PAX West Bar Citizen in Seattle last Friday. It was fantastic catching up with familiar faces and meeting new ones. The Bar Citizen World Tour rolls on with our next stop in Lisbon. I thought it was Libsyn, but it's Lisbon, Portugal, this Saturday. We hope to see you there. All right, going on for this week, going down to the bullet points. Tuesday, we had the September subscriber Comlink newsletter. We had the August issue of the Jump Point, which I'm going to show y'all here in a couple of seconds for those of you who might not be subscribers. On Wednesday, we had a scheduled maintenance, which kind of feeds into the latest hotfix for 4.3.0. We're going to get into those patch notes, of course. We also had the August 2025 PU monthly report. We're going to talk about that like next. So stay tuned. That's like the biggest piece of this podcast. We're going to read through each section, react to the biggest news. We'll get into that very deeply. On Thursday, we had a very underwhelming Squadron 42 monthly report. That's going to take a couple seconds to get through. And then later today, there's going to be an RSI weekly newsletter. And of course, we just mentioned on Saturday, the Bar Citizen World Tour in Lisbon, Portugal. Alrighty. So a lot to discuss. A lot happened. A lot happened this week. Maybe not. So the more I think about it, like we had the StarCitizen monthly report, which was a lot of information. But outside of that, again, the Squadron 42 quarterly newsletter was very underwhelming. I'll respond in a couple seconds. Let's stay on topic. I feel like I'm way hyperactive, or maybe I'm delirious because of the lack of sleep. Let's go with that. Ship Showdown 2955. And the winner is the RSI Polaris. We already knew this. This is not new for anybody. But this is the torpedo capital ship that I think has completely changed StarCitizen for what it is. So if we're actually looking like beyond paints and beyond prices, other dynamics that you might be considering, like really the better ship is the Polaris. Like on paper, the Polaris versus the Asgard. Like I don't think CIG had their hand on the scales. I don't think they were tipping anything in any way. Like I do think the Polaris deserved to win. Now, does everybody have $700, $800, basically $1,000 to spend on a ship? No. So this is a very exclusive group that really gets to benefit from having the Polaris. It's fine. But again, when StarCitizen 1.0 comes out, we forget that every ship in the game will be craftable. You will be able to get and obtain every ship in the game. So yes, it's $1,000 ish now. It's fair. That's a fair point. But when the actual game does launch in about 27 years, you will be able to get your hands on the Polaris. So we got to move past this alpha mindset, right? The alpha testing mindset, where again, not everything is based on the actual consumer's money spent. For me, I put that aside. I look at the actual contribution that the ship has had in the game, and no other ship has changed the face of StarCitizen the way the RSI Polaris has. Now, it's not the first capital ship, right? You've got like the 890 Jump. Theoretically, the Reclaimer is a capital ship as well. So you have these capital ships, but this is the first kind of all-purpose capital ship. And also, it's not limited, right? So the 890 Jump, it's a limited hull ship. Not everybody, even if you have the money, could get your hands on an 890 Jump. The Polaris is available to everybody. If you have the money, you can get it. So the potential that this has in StarCitizen, again, changed the name. It redefined what org play and what massive group play can be in StarCitizen. Yes, the Idris came out a couple months later. But again, the Idris is a limited hull ship. Not everybody can get their hands on an Idris. So the Polaris, I think, was groundbreaking. Huge ship, many different tiers and layers of that ship. The details on it are amazing. Its capability is great. It's got a brig. It's got medical beds. I mean, you name it, the ship has it. So I don't necessarily disagree with who won. Now, we can argue the rest, right? The rest of the Ship Showdown, the other matches, the other rounds. Yeah, there is a lot of information to kind of go through. And I encourage you to listen to previous episodes. Like, there's legitimate conversation to be had about, like, man, they done the raft dirty. Like, the raft against the Asgard. I'm sorry, again, the Asgard I would not consider as a cargo runner. Like, it has the capability. It can do it, but you didn't compare apples to apples. I'm not going to rehash that conversation, but just one example that the raft really got the shaft. See what I did there? All right, moving on. So you get let me just read it. The Polaris prevails. The Capital Commander has conquered the competition to claim the Ship Showdown crown. All backers will receive an in-game commemorative Polaris-themed holographic banner at this year's IAE to honor the champion. Additionally, your top 4 ships are taking home a prize as well, which are the Polaris, the Gladiator, the Asgard, and the Zeus ES. They will all receive a new 2955 Best in Show paint when IAE rolls around, along with in-game manufacturer-themed posters. All backers, they need to fix, especially for base building when that eventually comes out, but they need to fix like posters going on walls. Because right now in your hangar, you can't take a poster. I haven't tried it in several months, to be fair, but you can't take a poster and put it on the wall. There's no like stickiness. It doesn't stick. There's no like grid locking on the wall like there is in Elder Scrolls Online and other things like that. So I don't know. Yay for the posters. I don't know what the hell you're going to do with them, unless you're going to set them up against the wall to kind of like lean up against it. But you can't hang the posters in your hangars. That's a little annoying. All right, back to the article. All backers who have these ships in their hangar. This is important. Okay. All backers who have these ships in their hangar at the start of Best in Show will receive the paints and posters then. So it's not like you're going to get the ship later down the road. Like after IAE, you eventually get the ship and then you get the paints. You've got to have it now, right? You will also have an opportunity to pick up the ships with their Best in Show paint prizes included during IAE. So there will be packs, right? There will be a 2955 Best in Show pack. And having the Polaris in there, that is going to make that a very expensive pack, right? So you have the Polaris. The Zeus is a couple $100. The Asgard is a couple $100. You're probably looking at a $2,000 pack, or at least close to a $2,000 pack. All right, back to the article. From incredible creative submissions in Phase 1 to the votes that carried the ships forward in Phase 2, Ship Showdown was shaped by you. Thank you for being at the heart of it all. Guys, what are your overall thoughts? Overall thoughts of Ship Showdown for 29.55. I don't know. I'm okay with the winner. And I wanted the Asgard to kind of win it all because it was the affordable winner, but I always knew it was going to be the Asgard versus the Polaris. It just, I didn't know. No one knows how the community is going to lean. Because sometimes, I mean, we saw twice in the last several years that the Carrack, has won. And that was an expensive ship. So you never know. You never know. But then it was like 2 or 3 years ago, probably 3 or 4 years ago, the MPUV cargo won. So you never know who's going to win these things. So I wanted the Asgard to kind of carry it through, especially after it defeated the Raft. But I am happy that the Polaris, I think deservingly, won this Ship Showdown. So congratulations. Let's move on to the 4.3.0 live hotfix updates. This is a very, very, very quick update. In fact, the next few updates are going to be very fast. So we had a scheduled maintenance on Wednesday. So the hotfix central patch notes section in Spectrum is updated as of September 3rd. Again, very quickly, during the maintenance this morning, all the 4.3.0 clients and shards have been updated with the latest hotfix. This hotfix addresses multiple crash issues, as well as overspawning AI issues around locations in the PU, and adjusts difficulty in final waves of Pirate Swarm. So I'm trying to remember the timing. I think I did the final Onyx facility mission. It was on Wednesday because it was before I was supposed to do it with the org. But I do think it was after the hotfix, but it did not help. And maybe the intention was there to be several waves of enemies in that mission, but I didn't see a difference in those spawn closets. I got my ass handed to me, like I said, and that's after spending all of my ammunition and then some with my sniper rifle. So I didn't see it there, but I did hear from org members that some of the Hathor sites, the Stormbreaker sites, the mercenary, the bunker missions, I heard those were calmed down severely. So I don't know. And I also don't really know how I feel about that either, because it added a really cool layer of complexity and difficulty. And so where the AI might not be the smartest AI in the game right now, maybe the trade-off is that you do add quantity so that there's just constantly something, for you to strategize about, really teach the community the importance of cover and the difference between concealment and cover. Not everything that conceals you can cover you. It's a big one for those in the military. Staying in the theme of patch notes, let's get into the NDA Evo playtest. So this is Evocati. If this is your first time listening, very quickly, Evocati is the pre testers. You can become Evocati if you do a lot of submissions to the Issues Council, and you become just a household name with CIG, and you're a tester and that you contribute. So you're given the Evocati, title. But recently, in the last couple of years, it was also given out to streamers and content creators, right? So to kind of tease and to have these discussions. So here are the notes. The actual notes themselves are not NDA. What is NDA is in-game content. So we are not allowed to show screenshots or, again, anything really from in game, but we can talk about it. So here's what 4.3.1 looks like. It even says current NDA for visuals and in-game assets applies. So we're good here. The mesh configuration 73600. Again, that's 7 dynamic servers or DGSs in Stanton, 3 in Pyro, with an overall headcount on the shard at 600. You started out with 15 million UEC, which is great. And when I do these, I never spend any UEC outside of just equipping and getting myself ready with weapons and ammunition. But the testing focus. So this build for let me just read it. Tonight's build is an NDA test for Evocati for the initial build of SC Alpha 431. Only sparse info will be given here to test in-game communication of Onyx facility additions. Please avoid setting your spawn to Loreville, very specific, as the hospital there is broken in this build. It's important to read patch notes before you get into the patch. So it addressed stability and bug fixes, the Onyx facilities. This is part 3, or it's the it's the science wing. The MedGel, medical respawn resources, and drop ships and watchtowers, all very interesting. Let's actually read the features and gameplay. So what you can kind of expect. This is a preview into 431. All right, Onyx facilities. The Onyx facilities used for the new investigation missions in 430 have been expanded to include mission content beyond the previous releases. This continues after completing the original Jort's missions with a new mission that delves you further into their story. Currently, the entire Part 3 is not available in PTU as we work on getting it ready for release and will be available soon on PTU. Another reason why I wanted to finish the last mission in the Onyx facilities is because when 431 launches, I want to immediately get into the new content. And so it is like sequential order. You cannot start the science wing investigation missions if you have not completed the previous investigation missions. Right? All right, MedGel. All right, medical respawn resource. Medical bed respawning has undergone a significant change to their function to balance their use. Medical beds and ships will now require a resource that it uses to respawn players. That's very important. This is a brand new MedGel resource that can be purchased in medical facilities as an item the player can store and manually use each time the medical beds needs refilling. Respawning will be quite demanding, so make sure you top off your medical beds to make sure you have enough to respawn, or you will be sent to your previous medical facility on death instead. I love this. Now, it's not good news for those who use like the C8R Pisces, the medical terrapin, that kind of use those for bunker running or not camping, but having a spawn point forward of the objective. Right. So anytime you have that kind of scenario, it's not good news for them because this defeats that purpose, or at least limits the purpose. And so from an outside purview, because I don't really do that, from an outside purview, I love it because it limits the frequency at which you can do this. You can't just like live out of your C8R, which you couldn't anyways, because you can't log out of the beds, I don't think. But it doesn't give you like long-term access to just, especially in PvP, like let's say it's Ghost Hollow. You can't just like park your medical terrapin or your C8R Pisces and just go into Ghost Hollow, die, come back, go into Ghost Hollow, die, and come back and just repeat, rinse and repeat. You can only do it a limited amount of times because there is a limited resource now. I love that. I think that is a great addition. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out. It also is a good like currency for org play, something else for organizations to consider. Like you can't just have a Polaris or an Idris on standby with like an infinite respawning point, because you're going to have that limited resource of MedGel where not everybody has to or can respawn out of your ship. I like that. Or you make it, I'm like ideating as we're talking here, or you make it where every player for an org night has to come with a certain amount of MedGel to account for their own respawning. So it's like a payment to be part of an org play. Something to think through. Not during a podcast. Moving on, dropships and watchtowers. Dropships have been re-implemented to the persistent universe in Pyro. At various outposts across Pyro, dropships will spawn when the location population is reduced by a certain amount, i.e. when they are killed. These dropships will spawn, land, deploy reinforcements, and then leave. The reinforcement should exit the dropship and search the area for hostiles. They should be allied to the local population. At each location, are watchtowers, each of which has a terminal at the top. If the player disables all the terminals at a location, then no dropships will spawn. There are also missions that require the player to disable all the watchtower terminals at a given location. Love that. Please use this thread to report initial findings, blah, blah, blah. So I like that. Many of you know that in between StarCitizen play sessions, I'm also in Metal Gear Solid 5, not the new 3 that re-released, but 5. And like, I kind of love that stealth gameplay where you have to strategically do things around the objective before actually executing the objective. And I think this kind of plays into that. It would behoove you, it would be strategically optimal if you had a forward element. We called them advon parties in the military, but you had a forward element that got on site, disrupted communication, destroyed or disabled the watchtowers, and then your main effort came through, assaulted the objective. You had the support element, obviously flanking and supporting the objective without the fear of having a dropship reinforcement. I like this dynamic. I do. So really looking forward to that gameplay structure when 4.3.1 comes out. Okay, here we go. Our main topic for today's podcast, the StarCitizen monthly report for August 2025. We will get into the Squadron 42 newsletter. We will get into the September subscriber flare, the jump point, your comments and polls. But this is where we will live for the next couple of minutes. I'm going to read through everything. We're going to react to everything. There is some gold nuggets in this report. So here we go. First off, I love the image. It looks very Onyx facility-like, but it's embedded into the side of a mountain. I am really interested to see like what this is. Could be the science wing. Who knows? But cannot wait. Cannot wait. AI content. Here we go. Buckle up. AI content continued to progress with several ongoing initiatives, including refactoring one of the NPC archetypes important to landing zone infrastructure. When complete, it will provide additional character to the various landing zones around the verse. AI content are currently working closely with core gameplay to ensure there are contingencies in case the system fails while live. Development continued on a new set of voice packs to refine what was learned from the dynamic conversations added throughout the year. The team also looked into developing new behavior types and re-examined existing behaviors to look for improvements. Finally, they looked into the upcoming environments to make sure they are properly set up for AI populations. The AI features team began the month by improving NPC weapon overheating, a feature initially developed for Squadron 42. Alongside this, a new firing validator was also introduced for charged weapons. The logic for trigger control was reworked, and various issues were fixed. A pre-firing stage was also added for NPCs using weapons, as previously, they would only use charged weapons while in cover. A fix was also submitted to tackle an issue preventing NPCs from shooting after their first trigger pull. Various behavioral combat improvements were made, including the implementation and bug fixing of reactions to weak spot destruction and distortion damage. The team are also improving the overall experience for the Copian, starting with fixes to stabilize the flee behavior. Communication channel improvements were then implemented to allow for the better coordination of NPC groups with leaders. The devs also added improvements to automatically calculate when the NPC is alone or not to better filter what they can say and when. A bug was fixed for NPCs executing audio triggers when dead. This is not yet available in PU builds, but will be integrated soon. All right, quick note on the AI. Sorry, I've got like a hair in my nose. Good Lord. It's still bothered me. The AI right now, I hope Squadron 42 has better AI. The AI in StarCitizen is not really impressive at this moment. Last night we were doing Stormbreaker, and the Copian just kept running past us. Like there was never an attack by the Copian. They literally just ran past us, and it was very easy to slowly, turn, rifle up, put rounds into the Copian. So there was there's no challenge there. Now, again, the swarm of NPCs is difficult. I think that is a level of difficulty, but I think that kind of hides the need for actually intelligent AI. If you've got like 5 very good AI elite soldiers, that should be a very hard experience. And right now it's only hard if there's 10, 15, 20 of them. So I'm excited to see where the AI team goes and how it develops. So I personally am looking closely at the AI features, the AI teams, specifically on how they handle the NPCs. AI tech. The AI tech team progressed with cross-navigation volume pathfinding. Previously, this used a heuristic approach to predict which navigation volumes would be used for pathfinding, followed by multiple pathfinding steps, with one for each navigation volume. However, they now use a single pathfinder step through all navigation volumes to guarantee the shortest path. Navigation links will be temporarily disabled after failed use to prevent NPCs from repeatedly trying to use them, which would result in them getting stuck. General improvements to ship AI behaviors were made, including when the AI is within a defend area, but the target falls outside of it. In this case, the AI will actively find a position and range to target them. The team also polished the punishidal, I have no idea what that word is, behavior. Instead of statically circling the target, the AI will perform more maneuvers, particularly when targeted. In addition, bug fixes were done for NPCs flying in formation and following at distance, while detailed investigations were made into the current state of AI ship combat. Following this, the team improved AI ship combat tactic commitments for the strafer and jouster behaviors. For turrets, a vision adapter specialized for unmanned turrets was added, which allows vision perception to be enabled for security systems. For the usable builder, several improvements were made. For example, the helper geocode was changed to fix collision issues. The team also made the usable group coordinator, UGC, not reset when, quote, none was selected at the end condition. Usable data was added for links via the UGC editor. Additional fixes were made to some debug GUI issues, and the string input was changed to a drop-down list of tags. Finally, the devs implemented a way to load layouts in the usable behavior builder. Dedicated work began on the voxel-based 3D Pathfinder, starting with preliminary refactoring for the Path Follower that will support both the simple and new Pathfinder. On the tech side, bug fixing was done for StarScript to ensure developers can use the tool as fruitfully as possible. The team also optimized the subsumption initialization of AI actors and made further improvements to scripted control for the flow graph, such as adding functionality to mark global function availability. All right. The rest of this goes kind of quick, so bear with me. AI Game Intelligence Development Team. In August, the Game Intelligence Development Team continued to work on the Density Profiler, developing new IMG UI control. They also improved the visual of the Mission System version 2 UI prototype and outlined the properties design. In pursuit of the team's goals of unifying the overall scripting tool language, they also began working on the design of the new entity's scripting UX. Game Intelligence Development also continued to fix some small bugs and worked on features requested and suggested by the game designers to improve StarScript. Animation. Throughout August, Animation worked on improvements to the Copian as well as a new creature. I'm going to say it again, as well as a new creature. Again, maybe the Science Wing or something in the Onyx facilities, who knows? They also created assets for the upcoming Medgel dispenser and made a pass on death reactions to ensure they appear as expected. Facial animation worked alongside motion capture and narrative to capture additional content for releases coming soon and into early next year. They also worked through previously captured dialogue that will soon be available in-game, including for brand new mission givers and additional lines for Amelia Boyd. In addition, they continue to support the narrative team with SSN News Flash reports that will be visible in-game during timed events. art characters. Last month, the character art team progressed with armor for a new gang and supported requests for subscriber flare items and CitizenCon Direct. They also continued to work on variants for gameplay rewards and store items. The concept art team started the exploration phase for a new heavy armor. Big fan of new armor. That's like one of the reasons to play the game is to go and hunt and find the new equipment, new weapon systems, etc. Art ships. Excuse me. In the UK, 3 unannounced ships progressed throughout August. All are currently in various stages within the gray box phase. One is approaching its final review. One is receiving improvements to component accessibility, and the other recently entered following its white box gate review. 4 announced ships. Here we go. The Anvil Paladin progressed into the Lodo stage, or the level of detail 0 stage, having had feedback from the gray box gate review actioned. The exterior, which was slightly behind the interior, has now caught up, allowing for further refinement between the two. The Wolf was released. Moving on, the Drake Ironclad and Ironclad Assault progressed toward their white box reviews, so we're not in gray box just yet. With the team finalizing the asset kit that will be used across this and other Drake ships. Work on the RSI Aurora and Aegis Hammerhead kicked off to bring them up to current standards. The MISC Whole B entered pre-production following the approval of its updated concept. Guys, I am a huge whole series fan. I love the whole series. If you're starting out and you're brand new to the game and you want to get into cargo hauling, I'm always going to suggest the whole A. Super fast. It's really easy to have the external cargo. It's on the cheaper side. You can get, I think, just over 60 boxes of SCU, so it'll take you through a lot of the early content. But then it went from the whole A to the whole C. And you're like, I know my alphabet. I know there's a B that goes in there. Like, why, if it's just a middle point between the whole A and the whole C, why was it so difficult? Or why did it take so long to get the whole B? So a lot of surmising is that it needed component updates with everything else that was changing and happening within StarCitizen. They wanted to have the new component system into the whole B. That's fine. But I'm kind of hoping, I don't know, there's more to it. I kind of hope it's a little bit different than just a middle point, maybe a longer version of the whole A, but not quite as long as the whole C. So I'm very interested to see where the whole B is. I will tell you that most cargo runners are probably living in the world of the whole B. Like, the whole A is not big enough to really do medium or large or beyond cargo hauling, and the whole C is just too much. It's too much. Like, you can't land planet side. So everything you do has to be, in orbital. So I think most people would live in the whole B area, but the whole B needs to be able to land planet side with everything fully extended. It has to. Otherwise, it's going to be just as difficult as the whole C. Okay, going back to the article. In North America, the RSI Apollo Medevac, which is misspelled, and Triage continued to be prepared for release, with testing and bug fixing being the focus. Ships also supported the gameplay teams with medical gameplay adjustments. All right, I'm kidding. I'm kidding, guys. I don't care. I don't care. The military spelling is MEDEVAC for medical evacuation, but it is just as common on the civilian side for it to be spelled with an I, so MEDIVAC. StarCitizen has chosen, or CIG has chosen, to do the civilian version. Again, that's fine. My only hold up is it's not a civilian game. This is very UEE, right? The UEE Navy, IAE, Invictus, all the military, themes that are woven into StarCitizen. You would expect them to lean more towards the military spelling. At the end of the day, I don't care, whatever. But it's one of my OCD things where I see it spelt this way, and it makes me double, triple take. All right. Some of the team then moved on to a related but unannounced ship. Super interesting. Maybe another version of the Apollo. Who knows? The RSA Perseus was prepared for its LOD-0, or LOD-0, level of detail 0, gate review, with additional lighting and detail passes being done across both the interior and exterior. The Drake Kraken's pre-production phase continued as well. We always skip the community team, not for any other reason than we discuss it every week. All right, core gameplay. This one's huge. This one is huge. Throughout August, the core gameplay teams were heavily involved in the Alpha 4.3 release, though they also made significant progress across many large gameplay systems. The team's focus continued on freight elevators, thank you, Lord, with further fixes to the issues that put them into an unusable state, as well as improvements to the debug tooling. They are continuing to look into a large range of other widely reported issues, such as unreliable medical beacons and physical exploits. Improvements to medical ship functionality are in progress, including the addition of MedGel, which will be required to allow respawning. This will further differentiate the utility of the various medical vehicles in the game. These improvements also prompted some general improvements to the respawn flow. The devs are working to close out the functionality required to support a new creature's unique behaviors and attack moves. The engineering screen was then updated to show the rate of heat change for components and fixed various bugs. For item recovery, here we go. Listen. So currently we are at T0 of item recovery, that a player, when they die, will retain all of the equipped items, not inventory that's in backpacks, but the equipped items. So if it's in a slot on your persons, it is bricked, it is locked to that player. And when you respawn in the medical bed, you respawn with everything you had equipped. You lose all of your inventory. You got to go back to your carcass to get everything that was in your backpack, right? As an example. But that's the current state of T0. So here we go. For item recovery, the team added the ability to disable components for ships that have been claimed. Additionally, items will now display a timer until they become, quote, bricked after they've been claimed by the original owner. This is also displayed to the player as part of a notification when an item is bricked and a player attempts to use it. Oh my goodness. Okay. Listen, piracy is not necessarily my thing, but it should absolutely be protected in the StarCitizen world. It should be its game loop. It should be celebrated. It should be protected as a legitimate game loop, right? But this also impacts salvagers, right? Like this also impacts other game loops as well. So I am not going to base an entire opinion off of one paragraph. There's a lot of questions I have about what this means, when it bricks, what is the time that's required, how will players exploit this? Like the moment they, like it, if you soft death in a ship, quickly hold backspace to kill yourself. When you respawn in the medical bed, go as fast as you can to your kiosk, your ASOP terminal, and claim the ship. Because once you claim it, it bricks the components. I have questions. I have questions. So I don't know if it's a positive or negative. I don't. I think this is a move in the right direction, but we need to be careful. CIG needs to be careful with these integral steps towards the final end state of item recovery. So like we know that when a player, like this was briefed in CitizenCon last year, we know that when a player steals a ship, like they have to pay to get things like, access to it, to get it overridden for their control. Like there's a whole vision for item recovery and the way you obtain somebody else's stuff. We knew it was going to be like a phased approach to the rollout. So people had issues with T0. People are going to have issues with Tier 1. Honestly, we're going to have issues with every single level of this until the final product. So I would say, from your favorite podcaster, patience. Patience, patience, patience. This is probably going to impact the game a little bit, but just remember, none of it matters until StarCitizen 1.0. None of it matters. So the expensive components that you bought, sometimes they don't even persist through patches anyways. So when 4.3.1 comes out or 4.4 comes out, I mean, again, at what point do you stop caring? For those of us who have played this game long enough, we don't care. I don't know. I don't spend a lot of time obsessing over components. Do I upgrade my ships now? Sure, I absolutely do that. But the moment the ship glitches through the hangar and disappears and I have to claim it and half my shit's gone, that happens so many times that you just become dead to it. Again, nothing matters until 1.0 comes out. But I know that paragraph might bother you. It might bother a lot of people. But there's not enough information in this paragraph to formulate a good opinion in my purview. Okay, back to the article. For crafting, the team implemented an offline version of the blueprint service, which is used as a stand-in to support the player-bound blueprint library until the actual service starts development. They also finished the first playable prototype of crafting in a multiplayer environment. For control surfaces, improvements to the aerodynamic simulation were implemented, which should address jittering observed at low frame rates. Support for G-limiter was added to the new atmospheric flight mode, and NPCs now fly using control surfaces when in atmosphere. Internally, the team integrated the necessary work from Squadron 482 to conduct an internal playtest with various changes. These, in turn, prompted additional tuning improvements and bug fixes. IFCS saw further support work for Maelstrom, that's destroying things in the environment. Destroyed parts will now reduce thrust effectiveness, which also addresses a common exploit where non-critical ship parts are destroyed to improve acceleration. This also helps design who discovered that? Some gamer discovered that if you destroyed parts of your ship, you could improve acceleration. Good Lord. This also helps design in better defining when a ship is considered inoperable, even when not fully destroyed. Cockpit dashboards will now support the ability to physically animate and vibrate based on various factors, adding another level of fidelity and realism. Examples of triggers include spaceships shooting their weapons or maneuvering at high-speed angles of attack. For quantum travel, the team worked on various bug fix and polish tasks, such as NPCs not being able to perform solo jumps. Quantum interdictions saw further improvements to address the reliability of the system, especially in situations where new quantum interdiction fields appear or disappear after the initial jump has been initiated. Interdicted ships will also now have markers on them to make them more obvious to players who are performing the interdiction. Turret weapons are now prevented from firing when aimed at the host vehicle. Thank you. This will reduce the need for complex turret angle maps, which have caused turrets to aim up and down erratically as players rotate around. For radar and scanning, the team worked on various improvements and polished tasks, such as improved UI information about targets and better positioning of the scan information for very large targets. Transport also made a good progress toward feature parity with the legacy transit system. This included bringing it at parity with the current behaviors for instanced hangars, scripted support for design, and also making necessary preparations for dynamic server meshing. Part of this initiative involves moving away from interpolated movement to utilize the physics system, which saw a first pass implementation. The inventory rework. I said that weird. The inventory rework is progressing well too, with the team implementing proximity looting, which will now allow players to loot from multiple nearby inventory containers simultaneously. This new UI has also had filters and search implemented. So we saw this in demonstration on one of the Inside StarCitizens in the last couple of weeks. So cannot wait for this new inventory. All right. One more sentence. An upcoming event was given additional support to improve existing mission archetypes and better support mission availability scaling. All right. So for the rest of this, it's going to go really quick. So economy, mission design, narrative, online technology, R&D, and VFX. The economy. 1 second. Excuse me. Last month, the economy team progressed with a new iteration of the economy based on data they recently gathered. They're currently looking at the changes to the buy and sell prices of FPS weapons, armor, and consumables. They're also updating profit margins for salvaged vehicles, including components, in the effort versus reward algorithm. This is being done as part of an ongoing initiative to ensure crafting is profitable, revitalize the salvage of vehicle components, and prevent exploits. Mission design. The mission team worked hard toward the release of Alpha 4.3, including the new ASD Onyx facilities. They also continue their initiative to improve the mission generation system to help ease the current pain points that affect both the mission team and players. The devs also continue their work to bring existing missions back to older locations, which will expand the pool of available locations for players and bring back various interesting encounters. Hint, hint, distribution centers. Please go back to DCs. Good Lord, I want activity in DCs. Narrative. With the release of ASD Onyx facilities, the narrative team turned their focus to polishing the next round of content that players will discover there. The team also wrote and captured several new mission characters that will be making their debut later this year as they continue to focus on improving storytelling across StarCitizen. This month's performance capture session also saw the return of an already released character to pick up some additional lines. While not yet captured, the narrative began writing new scripts for NPCs to help flesh out the lore of specific areas in the game. The hope is that they will continue to expand the collection of conversations that players can overhear across the verse. The team also continued to work on developing a new hostile faction that will be making its debut in a later patch, establishing its unique voice and supporting the branding and character art teams. Last month, the Jump Team, I saw Jump Point and Team put them together. Last month, the team also worked with design on updating the text of a few older contracts to align with improved gameplay flows, as well as tutorial missions that will help players understand a new gameplay mechanic being introduced in a future patch. The team additionally crafted a new fiction piece for this month's subscriber Jump Point magazine that expands upon the current happenings in the Empire. All right, we're almost done. Online technology. In August, the online services team collaborated with QA to test the Stow Context API. Item Imprint V1 development continued as expected. With the blueprint library development done on the service side, related API development began. Online technology also started the discovery phase for the instancing feature. The team is currently working on making the inventory API only accept calls if they affect a specific inventory ID. This is being done ahead of the Entity Graph global database sharding. Regarding the lazy inventory creation project, love that. The team worked on updating calls that could handle it and change the API accordingly. Essentially, the team wants inventories to be created if needed on certain calls. As usual, the online service team worked on various bug fixes and improvements, including items for the mission system and for trace analytics. Meanwhile, Live Tools continued to enhance their internal support tool. The team also kicked off the discovery and early design of a new entitlement service with the Hex NOC entitlements module. This service will support item recovery workflows by tracking entitlement history, status, and source, making it easier to resolve issues quickly and accurately. Live Tools also began restructuring the error reporting system. This upgrade aims to significantly boost the speed and volume of crash processing. As part of this, they're migrating to a new framework that's more scalable and easier to maintain. Finally, in August, the network team progressed with bug fixing and maintenance alongside support for online services item imprinting tasks. They also focused on mapping out their path toward instancing and dynamic server meshing. R&D. In August, the R&D's team focus remained on analyzing performance and optimizing engine and game code. And for visual effects. Multiple locations, props, and gameplay elements integral to the entire Alpha 4.3, 4.3.1 flow required VFX support, which resulted in incredible visuals that the community have already given great feedback on. Support was also given to the vehicle and creatures team. Mouthful. Yeah, those are always super long, but a lot of great information. You cannot be passionately involved in StarCitizen for years with hundreds or thousands of dollars spent on the game and not care about the monthly report. There are gold nuggets here. There's things to digest, some hot topics, right? Like I think the tier 1 item recovery is going to be super interesting, or the changes to item recovery. It's going to be super interesting. But the new ships, where they're at, what levels they're going through, like this is game development. This is a major theme in the Beyond the Verse podcast. So I see extreme value in it, so much so that I am sad about the Q3 2025 newsletter. So Squadron 42, again, this is quarterly. So I expected so much more coming out of this report. So this is once every 3 months. That's what quarterly means. But there's little to no information on here. So there's this great like journey to Odin. All you need to know about the Odin system. There's some good stories here, some information about what you might experience in Squadron 42. Guys, but that's it. That's it. Like, I mean, it has an image that you can click on that you can download. And again, it talks a little bit about the Odin 4 system. Let's just go through this. Jump points, Kellogg, Nyx, and Tanga. Odin 4, Fortune's Cross, Odin 1 Alpha, the Coil, or Odin 1, which looks beautiful, looks amazing. Let me just zoom in on this real quick. It's a really, really awesome picture. Odin 3, the Osiedo Station, Odin 2. The Odin system is a planetary system in the UEE. It is made up of two Chthonian planet. I don't know what the hell that is. One gas giant, an unusual cosmic anomaly, and a white dwarf star. This anomaly was created when the first planet in the system was destroyed by its star, leaving behind a unique asteroid field beset by constant electrical storms. Corporations and research facilities that deal in dangerous materials conduct testing on Odin 2. But that's it. That's it. Nothing against the team working on Squadron 42. I know their heads are down. I know they're trying to get a H2 2026 release, squared away. Get it. Roger. Man, but like so much left to, there's so much opportunity to get more into the lore and what to expect. I know there's going to be a marketing and a PR push. Usually for AAA studios, it's 3 to 6 months worth of like a PR push. So we probably won't even see that until 2026, especially if we're expecting Grand Theft Auto 6 to come out in H1. I would imagine that we would start marketing and having public relations or PR campaigns happening right around that time for an H2 release. So I don't know. I'm just impatient. Full transparency. It's more me. It's more on me. Let's get into the subscriber promotions. I'm going to say this is like half good, half bad. I think this is a combination of what we've seen this year so far. So in just looking at this image, this armor is what you're going to get if you are a Centurion. And this little cryogenic chamber of things, I'll explain what it is here in a second. That's your Imperator. So I like the Imperator item. I think when base building comes around and now that we can spawn into our hangar, a lot more people are decorating their hangar. So this is cool. I actually like this. I like the animation. I like it. The armor, I don't know, it's an undersuit. And like, I don't know anybody who goes around in their undersuits in any situation in the game. Like, why would you be in this? I'm assuming this is the science wing of the Onyx facility. Why would you be in this suit in this environment when there's hostiles? Like, you're going to have a medium, if not a heavy armor set. I'm not going to use this. I have it. It's great. Thank you. And the detail on it is amazing. It's immaculate. It looks phenomenal. Great detail. I don't know. I don't think anybody that I actively play with is really going to be rocking this undersuit. Let's get into it. All right. So here's your Curanus Tech Daybreaker undersuit and helmet. The Sabine undersuit and Calva helmet embody the advanced look and performance you expect from Curanus Tech. This cutting edge combo provides reliable protection while remaining lightweight. The Daybreak Edition features subtle yet striking gold highlights. Again, it is good detail. I will give them that. Great detail. Here is your GRX prototype, right? This cryogenic chamber or whatever. Developed by AST scientists, which makes me believe this is part of the science wing. The experimental power core showed promise thanks to its exceptional output rates, but suffers from the energy fluctuations and gravity anomalies that prove to be insurmountable issues, rendering it unusable. AST has seized all future developments of this technology, right? But it looks cool. It's going to be really cool in your hangar. And then you can get both, obviously, for $14.45, right? The undersuit's $10. The GRX prototype is $7. So instead of $17, you'd be spending $14.45. The vehicles of the month are kind of a slap in the face. It's the Atlas and the Atlas Geo. Those are great, by the way, like phenomenal additions to the game. Yes, by all means. But these are like $30, $40 quote unquote ships. So it's kind of a low value. But if you have these, if you're a subscriber, actually get in and use them. They're phenomenal. Like the ICTs being used in last night's Org Night, like just a great experience. You really do. Like, it doesn't feel, let me say this a better way. It feels very nicely integrated into StarCitizen. It doesn't feel disjointed. It doesn't feel like it shouldn't be there. It feels very fluid. And I think the team did a really good job on integration of the Atlases. So very cool. That's it from a subscriber perspective. I don't know. I'd probably give this like a C or D. It's not as good as the last couple of months. I want to see like more things that we would use more often. You're going to set up this hangar item once and it's going to look pretty when you get into your hangar, but you're going to set it up once and forget about it. And again, I don't necessarily know anybody who's actively playing the game in a flight suit. So what do you think about the subscriber flare? What are your thoughts as we move on to the jump point? All right, so the jump point is very niche. You have to be a subscriber in order to see the jump point. We're not going to read through it all. I'm just going to show you what's in it. Here's the article real quick. Attention, subscribers. The August 2025 issue of Jump Point is now available to the subscriber section of your account. This time we're exploring some of the content just released into the verse, including behind the scenes look. I can't talk anymore. That's what happens whenever I read an entire patch note or monthly show note, including behind the scenes looks at the Kruger L-21 Wolf and RSI Meteor, and a detailed look at the Final Four from Ship Showdown 2955, plus the updated portfolio from Kruger Intergalactic, and the narrative team has a lore transcript from the UEE Congress on the Second Life Initiative. Guys, I read that and it is good. Again, props to the lore team. I think they do really good at telling stories. And at the very end of the jump point, there's a really cool back and forth between differencing of opinions on the Second Life Initiative, on whether or not like this crisis is a good thing. Like there's a thought out there that, you know, thankfully there's an issue and people are actually dying because that means they're cherishing life more. So that's like an interesting question. It's like, where are you on that fence as a listener of the Beyond the Verse podcast? Where are you? Like if you had the ability to have a Second Life like initiative in real life, like would you take it? Would you take it or would you accept death? Would you live your life differently? Okay, those are really deep conversations for a podcast. Here's the actual jump point itself. We just talked about what's in it. I do kind of want to come down here and show y'all that back and forth. We're not going to read it, but here's like a speaker, senator. It's just, again, it's a back and forth between individuals that are discussing the Second Life Initiative. I think this is a very awesome interaction. Something that role players should absolutely maybe do a YouTube video on. All right, as promised, let's get into last week's polls and comments section. So we asked the question, how do you think GTA 6 launch will affect Squadron 42 and StarCitizen's success? 50% of you say some impact, 37.5% say little impact, and 12.5% of you say no impact at all. I actually agree with the way this plays out. So I think it's apples and oranges. I think I said that last episode, but I think it's apples and oranges. I think most people are going to play all three. They're going to play GTA 6, Squadron 42, and StarCitizen. And they're going to love all three for three very different reasons. So I agree that it'll have some impact. Maybe the timing, it'll impact maybe the success of timing. But at the end of the day, at the end of the year, at the end of 2026, it's not going to matter. I think all three are going to do very, very well. To the comment section. Open comments. We're going to go through these pretty quick. Not a lot of them. I welcome that. Cody Laneship writes, with the new AST facilities and ultra rare stealth armor, I can't help but wonder how crafting will impact rarity in the verse. If blueprints allow multiple copies of rare gear, will true rarity vanish? StarCitizen thrives on unique finds, but CIG faces a tough balance between rewarding discovery and preserving long-term value. What are your thoughts when it comes to rarity on items and possibility of crafting in the future? Cody, this is what every game has to fight and solve for themselves. Every game does this, right? So take World of Warcraft. Let's just take World of Warcraft. You have echelons of effective potions, right? Like you can craft a very effective potion, but in order to craft it, you have to go and play the end game material to have the ingredients to craft that potion. So that's one way of looking at it. Then you can flip it and say you can craft maybe a tier, like an alpha tier potion, but maybe you have to go and find and do end game material to get the superior version of that potion. Like this is very common, and I think every game has to do their balancing. To your point, StarCitizen is going to be no different. There are going to be some blueprints, but maybe a blueprinted creation of a Gladius will not be as good as a Wicklow turn-in for a Gladius, which won't be as good as a contested zone prized Gladius, which will not be as good as, right, you can keep going. So I think there's like tiers of rarity, maybe like the liveries or the paints is what like impacts rarity. I disagree with like making a gun only findable or only craftable. Like I think there should be variety, because maybe I'm not into crafting. I want the best gun out there, or I want at least a version of the best gun out there or the best ship out there, but I'm not going to sit and craft and have ingredients. Maybe that's me, right? And if that's me, I don't necessarily want to handcuff and penalize a person for not wanting to do a game loop in order to get something. So I think you should be able to get all things, but the rarity is in like the level or the aesthetic, right? I think another way of looking at this is like maybe Call of Duty or one of those like FPS games. You have access to like all the guns. You have to play the game to actually earn access to guns, but it's the armaments. It's like the things you can do to your gun that makes it rare, or that makes it like, special or unique. So that's how I view rarity. Again, I don't think it's really different game to game. I think the blueprint's a very interesting like crafting solution for those who like crafting. But I think every walk of life, every game loop should have access, or passion to play or way of playing should have access to the same like variety, I think is what I'm trying to say. But the rarity is in how you improve upon it. All right. Corrupted Data. Hopefully that answers your question, Cody. Corrupted Data writes, all I can say about StarCitizen at this point is it's just not pulling me in. Maybe I need a $6,000 PC in order to enjoy it. I don't know. I hope they can optimize the game and give us base building. Hell, give me a tent and a campfire. Also ending with the comments is a good choice. All right. A lot of people have shared that sentiment. Glad to hear that this new format is is good for you. Corrupted Man, we miss you. We miss you in the org, but I also don't blame you. I mean, there are ups and downs about this game, and we all go through seasons, and it sounds like you're going through one of those seasons, and that's, again, perfectly fine. I'm with you. Like, where's base building? We saw that in Citizen Con. It was kind of briefed as like it's closer than you think. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it is. I would also like something small. Start us off small. Like, allow us to be able, like, that's a great point. Allow us to be able to like prop a tent up. Like, it'd be really awesome if I was in the middle of microtech, far away from anybody, and not have to be on a ship and not have to, like, I don't know, fast travel to a bed. Like, give me like a little tent I can pop up. Right? Not even like a tent as an attachment to the underside of your backpack. It doesn't have to go in your backpack, but it attaches. It's a slot that goes on the bottom of your backpack, and that'll be your bed. Right? I agree, buddy. I agree. Sorry that you're going through that season, but we are excited to have you back when you choose to come back. Billy the Beast writes, they should have made it so if you don't miss a vote, you get the badge. Hold on. Let me restart this. They should have made it so if you don't miss a vote, you get the badge. You're right that a bunch of people will vote for what they think will win over what they truly want. I think Asgard is going to win it all. On CIG making Ship Showdown more engaging, most the people in my org and friends list didn't even know about it. The only reason I know is because I'm obsessed with this game, LOL. All good points. Like, Ship Showdown, it just needs an overhaul. It just needs to be overhauled. I think all of it. It needs to matter. And I think once it like really matters, then it'll become more engaging and the votes will increase. But right now it doesn't really matter. It doesn't. And it does feel like there's other influences to like the matchups and the importance of each round. So yeah, it just needs to be overhauled. I think CIG has their work cut out for them when it comes to that from a marketing perspective. I did also think that the Asgard was going to win it all. So you and I both are, in that boat. Saxus Primus writes, Science Wing Boreal Stalker, ? Cannot wait for the Science Wing, man. Let's do it together. I'll see you in the org. Saffron Virtue writes, I hope StarCitizen and Squadron 42 perform well enough to make CIG feel like continuing the StarCitizen adventure is worthwhile. I do not worry about how it will perform compared to games like GTA 6. As you said in the podcast, GTA 6 is much more than a game. It is a cultural icon. You don't compete with that. The game for me is about immersion, not swimming pools full of money. Though, of course, those are a nice bonus. Yeah, man, 100%. GTA 6 is a fad. It is a walk of life. It is a whatever you want to call it. Like, GTA 6 is going to be leading the way for the next 10, 15 years, just like GTA 5 did. Absolutely. What Squadron 42 and StarCitizen can hope to be is amazing IP for the space community that just hasn't been done before. So again, completely different apples and oranges. All right, 2 more comments. Kelks Shiz, I'm so sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name. About the GTA discussion, I would add that I wouldn't rule out the possibility that Squadron 42 over time became a more popular game than GTA 6. Also, we shouldn't forget that Roberts' Wing Commander games were big in the early 90s. That doesn't have an immediate bearing on the matter. It's more a matter of faith in his abilities, not as a manager per se, but the man does know what a good game is and isn't afraid to push a deadline in its pursuit. And pushing deadlines has he done? Yes. No, he is good. And I have faith in Chris. I really do. I think he's got, he has potential, as a director, and it'll be like, this will be the make or break. His legacy, in my opinion, is going to be based on Squadron 42 and StarCitizen. So we'll see. We'll see. Last Girdle writes, hey, love the new format. Keep that going. Congrats to the Polaris groupies for their win, and hats off to everyone who voted for the Asgard last night. I was doing a speed run of the engineering wing and finally got the ASD core now that I'm hooked and had to find another 4 pieces. the other 4 pieces. I'm with Star Citizen for the long run, and I'm looking forward to GTA 6 as I think both can coexist in the same space. Also looking forward to seeing fellow citizens in San Jose on October 11th. Thanks for having me in the org. Yeah, man, thanks for joining the org. And for everybody else who's interested in the org, we always have slots open, man. Come on, have a good time, join the family, and we will get into the verse together. And what a great way of wrapping up the show. I love everybody's comments. Everybody seems to be engaged for the most part. And I, as a fellow fan of the game, I appreciate it. I feel like it's only up from here. This has been a year. Maybe it's not the year that you expected, but this has been a gradual increase year where things have progressively gotten better, in my opinion. Now 421 had its, race for Stanton debacle. So there was that little blip, maybe that little dip in favorability. But I think the rest of the year is going to play out very nicely. Looking forward to next month's CitizenCon and what that has in store for everybody. Straight into IAE, straight into Illuminalia. Am I saying that right? Luminalia. There you go. It's my favorite time of the year for Star Citizen. So, and we have Pirate Week. Pretty sure Pirate Week starts next week. So get ready for Pirate Swarm and get yourself those pirate paints. A lot of P's, a lot of explosives or plosives for the podcast listeners. All right. If you want to become part of the conversation, you can do so again on Spotify. Respond to the comment section, respond to the poll. We will try to read those at the end of each episode now. It's like the official new format. But if you want to find more information about the podcast, who we are, the organization and who we are, Soul Provision, you can do so at beyondtheversehq.com and soulprovision.com. We are still doing our philanthropy with Extra Life. So we're supporting children's hospitals. If you want to give, it's beyondtheversehq.com/give. And again, 100% pass through straight to the children in need at their hospitals. Guys, girls, everybody, thank you so much for being a part of episode 120. Safe travels as you traverse Beyond the Verse. Take care, everybody.